Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. Today, I'm bringing you episode 6 in my series on books I loved to teach. And today I'm going to be speaking about David Guterson's novel, Snow Falling on Cedars. This is a novel that I taught to seniors in high school in a contemporary fiction literature course. It took David Guterson almost 10 years to write this novel. He was working full-time as a high school English teacher himself, and he would work on this early in the morning before school. He was able to leave teaching and work full-time on his writing after the enormous success of this novel, which won the PEN/Faulkner Award in 1995. The novel is set, or the present tense of the novel is set in 1954 on a small island north of the Puget Sound in the state of Washington. A Japanese-American fisherman named Kabuo Miyamoto is accused in the murder of another fisherman, Carl Heine, in September of 1954. Both men grew up on this island, and they were good friends in their childhood and in their adolescence. Both men served in World War II. The trial for Kabuo takes place in December of 1954 during a fierce snowstorm. Ishmael Chambers is another main character in the story, and he grew up on the island with Kabuo and Carl as well. And he is also a veteran of World War II. He served in the U.S. Marine Corps. Now, post-World War II, Ishmael has come back home and he's taken over really his father's position, running the local newspaper. And his job in the course of most of this novel is to cover this trial. Another thing about Ishmael, Ishmael is that he lost an arm during the war while fighting against the Japanese. In flashback chapters, we go back to the high school years of these three young men. At that time, Ishmael was in love with a young girl that he had known since childhood, a Japanese-American girl, and her name is Hatsue Imada. They had to date secretly because an interracial couple would have not been accepted in their community. It would not have been tolerated. Now, in the present tense, in 1954, when this trial is going on, Hatsue is married to Kabuo, the man accused in the murder of Carl Heine. We find out that Carl and Kabuo, friends as children, had not been friends in their adulthood post-World War II. Kabuo's father had worked out a deal with Carl's father, Carl Sr., to buy a small plot of his land. People on this island work either as fishermen or as strawberry farmers. Carl Sr. gave the Miyamotos 10 years to pay off the small parcel of land that they were purchasing from him. However, the intervening war led to the Japanese Americans in the area being relocated to Manzanar, an internment camp in California. Carl Sr. dies during this period of time, during the war years, and his wife, Etta, who never really wanted her husband to sell any of the land to Japanese Americans, sells the entire farm while after her husband's death, and while Kabuo is serving in the army and is overseas, actually fighting against the Germans. The rest of the Miyamoto family is still in the internment camp. And basically what happens is they miss the last few payments that they were supposed to make on the land, and Etta sells the land out from under them, basically. She sells the entire farm, stating that she wasn't able to maintain the farm without her husband. Now, in the post-war years, it is believed that Kabuo Miyamoto has killed Carl Jr. out at sea in an effort to avenge these wrongs done to his family. David Guterson, an English teacher, said that he had wanted to include elements from some of his favorite works to teach in this novel. And two that are most evident, I think, are Romeo and Juliet and To Kill a Mockingbird. What we have here in the love relationship between Ishmael and Hatsue in high school, this is not exactly two rival families as we have in Romeo and Juliet, but we definitely have a situation of forbidden love, where the two young people from different races have a love that would basically be disapproved of by both races. In fact, these two can only really be together in the woods on the outskirts of their town, and they meet frequently there in a hollowed out base of a cedar tree. The tree becomes a major symbol in the novel. It exists outside of society, the society that would keep these two apart. It becomes sort of a sanctuary or a safe haven for the couple. It protects them, momentarily anyway, from the harsher realities of the world in which they live. But it's also totally isolated, and it prevents them from living as a couple out in the open, out in the real world. Their love can basically only exist in their hearts and their minds and in this part of nature far removed from society, a nature that does not judge them with racial prejudice or any kind of discrimination. Another very important influence on Guterson was Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. Both novels revolve around a criminal trial, and they both focus on the role of racial prejudice in the investigation and in the trial itself. In both novels, the trials expose the underlying hatred in their respective communities. This novel deals with really big themes that are great to discuss with kids. One theme that we explored was the effects of World War II on the men who fought in that conflict and survived. All three of the main male protagonists are men who have come home from the war very badly scarred. Ishmael is certainly physically damaged. He lost an arm in battle. But he's also deeply emotionally scarred, and he has never gotten over the loss of his young love from high school. He has not been able to move on, and so his life is somewhat stalled. Karl Heine, too, has come home badly injured, not physically, but emotionally. He was a popular, outgoing, affable kid in high school, and he comes home a very, very depressed and withdrawn and really isolated person who keeps almost completely to himself. Although he is married and he has a young family, he doesn't really interact with anyone. Even all of the other fishermen say that they feel like they don't really know him at all. And his own wife claims that she feels she doesn't know him. Kabuo also comes home very injured, more psychologically. First of all, he comes home to find out that the land that his family had been paying for almost 10 years has been sold out from under them, and they have nothing now. And this happened while he was off serving this country in war, while his family was interned. But he also, he is filled with rage at what has happened to him and to his family. But while on trial for Karl's death, he also feels this strange sense of karma, and he does very little to contribute to his own defense, because he feels somehow that there is something just about his being on trial. He feels like this is a just punishment, not for anything he did to Karl, but rather for what he thinks were wrongs that he committed in the war against German soldiers. Another important theme that runs throughout the novel is racial prejudice. It underlies the entire plot. Ishmael and Hatsue cannot be together because of cultural differences and racist views about interracial dating. Eda Heine is quick to sell the Miyamoto land as soon as she has the opportunity, because she never wanted her husband to sell land to Japanese Americans to begin with. Kabuo is the prime suspect in Karl's death, less because of actual evidence against him, and much more so because of his race and anti-Japanese sentiment that remains very high after the war, even against Japanese Americans who fought in the war for the United States. Closely related to this theme of racial prejudice is the theme of justice and the question of whether or not a Japanese American man can get a fair trial in post-World War II America. Etta Heine maintains that she had not done anything illegal by selling the Miyamoto land while Kabuo was away at war. But Kabuo points out that what she has done, while it may be legal, it is certainly nothing that anyone would consider right or moral. Hatsue, in a rare conversation with her old boyfriend Ishmael, pleads for fairness for Kabuo, who is on trial based deeply on biased circumstantial evidence. It is probably in the trial that the novel bears the closest resemblance to Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. In the school where I taught for more than 3 decades, our freshmen read both Romeo and Juliet and To Kill a Mockingbird. And then we taught Snow Falling on Cedars in the senior year. I liked revisiting these themes with which we had begun our students' literary journey when they were freshmen. I liked revisiting all of this when they were seniors, coming full circle in their senior year in a book with very similar, timeless themes. So that's a little bit about David Guterson's Snow Falling on Cedars, a book that I loved to teach. As always, I thank you for watching. I hope that you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.